Good morning. It's Urban Agoge, week 21, day 4. Sorry there wasn't a recording yesterday, but I absolutely had to get my bedroom sorted out in limited time because I'm also doing a full-time job in the evenings. So yeah, yesterday did not happen really, so we're out in the woods. Well, let's go and have a wander. See if I can manage to not fall over this time. Yes. So today's project is getting the studio up and running. Well, maybe today, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday and Monday's project is getting the studio sorted. And the reason I want to do that is I want like a tidy place to start. So next week I can maybe look into the whole Marie Kondo thing where you go through your possessions and you get rid of anything you're not actually using, but it also helps you to declutter. So as far as things like my clothing is concerned, I really do need to go through stuff because there's some stuff that just needs to be binned. I'd like to say there's stuff I could give to a charity shop, but you know, there really isn't. I tend to wear my clothes to destruction. So yeah, so we're out in ye woods, filming, getting my exercise. I've completely failed to go for a run, although, you know, I've got to get back to the exercise thing. And I'm still thinking about, you know, although I've departed from the army thing, because I don't really want to consume 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day just so I can do 200 press-ups. That's not why I got fitter. You know, I've kept the weight off, which I was quite surprised by. And it's now time to sort of like eat healthier. I am kind of the mindset where I can see that I'll be going mostly vegetarian, especially in the light of all this new stuff. I'm not saying vegetarianism isn't the you know, it isn't the be all and end all of health, but it's certainly a pretty good way to avoid it. I mean, I'm not carrying exactly the same sort of weight as Penn Jillette, who basically went vegan, and Kevin Smith, who's gone vegan, as in the film director. You know, those are the two most famous people I know that have shed an incredible amount of weight recently. Let's go for a wander down here, and then I'm going to see if I can make it all the way back along the same bit, because I haven't been down here for a long while. So yeah, I think it was this way. That's like a bit out of my way. There we are. The trouble is, if I walk along this way, anyway, I don't think I can get back up here, because that's a bit of a jump. So, oh, never mess with rivers. I wonder. So yeah, that's pretty much a one-way trip. That's probably too high to climb. Oh well. We're here now. Probably have to go on a loop that involves climbing back up and gaining some sort of altitude. Yeah. Don't really want to fall in the river, but here we are. Yes. So yeah, just out in the woods. So yeah, so a good deal of phase 2 of Urban Agoge is going to be about making your environment better for, just improved efficiency. I mean, one of the things that prevents me from being efficient is the fact that I've got a whole room that's essentially a junk room in my house. Now, whilst I want to show you this process, part of it is that the rooms are so amazingly messy, I'm kind of ashamed of how messy I've let them get. But, I think that's part of the mindset of being busy. This is quite a dangerous path, this bit. But being messy and disorganised is something that comes to us all. It's very easy. And whilst I like the idea of Swedish death cleaning, I think that's more a solution for people that don't have things to do. Whereas most of the people that watch this, not all, but most, are kind of a little bit techy or a little bit creative, and those people tend to acquire stuff as they tinker with bits of technology. So the thing is that yes, you could throw away everything that you don't use currently or you haven't used in a while, but I've never been tempted to do that, usually because when I'm trying to solve a problem or I'm trying to fix something, having a pile of bits from which you can kludge a solution has always been handy. So I'm kind of disinclined to follow that rule. The number of times, look, there's where I fell over yesterday, or fell over on Tuesday. So yeah. So apologies if over the next couple of weeks there are a few missing days. Because there are going to be a few missing days, mostly because I've got stuff to do, and I'm not going to film how messy my house is, because you all know what a messy room looks like, and I am super embarrassed about it. But I might show you, I definitely want to show you when I go through the Marie Kondo thing about, getting rid of stuff, storing stuff intelligently. And I don't think I'm ripping off Marie Kondo particularly, because she's got a series on Netflix right now, which is why I saw her and agreed with a lot of the things that she was going to. Now there is one thing that she does that I probably won't be doing, which is where she sort of prays to or communes with the kami of the house, the spirit of the house. But I can certainly see a place for meditating on your living environment, whether it's a house or an apartment or anything. I've certainly had a few unusual homes over the years. I do like this waterfall. Yeah. But as some people from elsewhere in the world have commented, this is a stream. It's not a river, not at this point. It's not particularly wide. You can run across it, it's shallow, usually. As we've seen since I started filming Urban Agoge, it can get amazingly fearsome if it's overflowing its banks, like all water. But yeah, I'm still enjoying the novelty of not having been along this route for a couple of months. But it's still very muddy down here, because we've had a lot of rain and not very much summer. So that's why I'm getting the studio sorted, so I can keep uploading stuff regularly, even if the weather's terrible. It'd be nice to have a room in which I can film and the cameras are set up and it's all ready to go, because I want to do a few more podcasts and discussions. ideally with people that are doing this. So it's cool. But yeah, so it's quite excellent that Urban Agoge has acquired a few new subscribers. So hello to new subscribers who've joined, and hello to everybody basically. All of these videos are a hello. So yeah. I haven't had any comments as yet regarding being on strike from eating beef. But yeah, I wouldn't mind some feedback on that, because I think that's a world-saving idea. I mean, yes, it's a bit of a sacrifice. I love steak, but and I love the way I cook steak. But you know, it's a flavour that we can get possibly other ways. But you know, the livestock industry is, you know, starting to become a planet harming type thing. So, and it's the only thing that pretty much everybody on earth can do, unless you live on a beef farm and you eat a lot of beef, in which case it's, you know, it's really not that great for you. And it's good protein, I suppose. But I mean, if you ask a bodybuilder how often do they eat like steak, not as often as say they eat something that's easy to digest like chicken or fish. So, you know, I'm not proposing that people become vegans, although, you know, if you ate just plant-based foods, there's a good chance you'd be a lot healthier. Certainly have a lot less cholesterol and saturated fat, which is the thing that'll kill you. So it's all about looking for the win-win. If you are more mindful, I hate that word, but if you're more aware of when you eat meat, why you're eating it and what you're eating, so you make it count, and you make sure that you're not just eating meat for the sake of having it in a sandwich or something, then it does a lot of good things for you. For instance, you know, your food bill goes down drastically, you know, like halves, as long as you're not buying, you know, artisanal vegan stuff. So yeah, I think we're at the end of the track here. Been out here a couple of times. I'm not sure that it goes on any further than that. I hope I've stopped this 2-minute loop thing. Although I did find a setting that said loop 2 minutes, and that was switched on, so I've switched that off. And I think it's largely down to me resetting the settings a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, because my dad wanted to see what it was like to use this camera rig, because he's going to be going to protests and documenting them. So yeah, and I suppose the thing about the going on strike from eating beef or choosing not to eat beef is a personal thing. Although the people I've discussed it with have taken it quite personally. So I had a chat with Chipko, who said I must use or concentrate on using non-violent, non-demand type language. So I did my very best the other day, or yesterday even, when I was at breakfast with a friend of mine who's a doctor of political science, I believe, or doctor of sociology. So I explained my concept to him and he was okay with it, but I explained it using the kind of I have decided, rather than it would be good if we could all, although it would be good if we could all stop doing things that destroy the planet. But yeah, ain't it the way of the world? So yeah, it is one of those things where if you're going to lead, you have to lead by example, and you have to claim that you're doing it anyway. Well, I am doing it anyway. I've just stopped eating beef. It's just a flavour. It's one of those things where I've got quite a, not an overactive imagination, but quite a powerful imagination, which has always helped, you know, and hindered me in the past. But I can just imagine trying to tell a child, you know, 20 or 30 years from now, and the child looking up at me and going, "Grandad, you know when we could have saved the planet?" And I'm like, "Yeah. Why Did you know that if we just didn't eat beef, we could have had a lot more time to solve these problems, implement, greener technologies and stuff, if you just stopped eating beef? And the idea of saying to a child who's living on a ravaged planet with huge overpopulation, global crises and all that sort of thing, that's very much, like we properly know that that's what's coming if we don't change. And we have the technology to change. And then just saying to that child, I'm sorry, darling, I just really liked steak and beef burgers and stuff like that. And then the child saying, well, couldn't you have eaten something else? It's like, well, no, we kind of thought that this particular taste and this particular texture was more important than your planet. I mean, we're getting closer and closer all the time to getting off this rock. We almost have the technology now. China's putting in a moon base, which will be fun. Do not look for wildlife when clambering over bits that you have already fallen over on. Yeah, so it just seems really weird to me, that it hasn't been, it's been suggested in scientific papers. The one that they did in Cambridge recently, when they sort of said, okay, brainy people, which is always a good start. If you've got scientists, why aren't you asking them? The trouble is that we did ask scientists about global warming and climate change, and they said yes, it's doing it. It's going to do it. Whether it's down to, in the unlikely event that it's just a cyclic thing, which I don't think it is, given the amount of carbon monoxide that we're putting out into the atmosphere and all the other terrible things that we're just routinely doing. I don't think we're helping, even if it is a cyclic thing. But we have taken out most of the world's forests, and we're now setting fire to more of them. So, the Amazon is currently on fire, largely because people would like to grow and raise cattle there for beef, because it's high profit. Because, surely it's better to subsidise the crap out of people with imaginary money and give them things rather so we can still have a planet, because what they do over in South America will eventually affect us whether we like it or not. Like it's affecting Iceland right now. There's a big melt-off coming. So, and this scientist who did the research and crunched all the numbers and looked at how much damage a single cow does and all that good stuff, said basically that the one single thing that every human on earth could do that didn't oppose cultural laws and all that sort of jazz, that people could just do just by making a decision, was just not eat beef. Ideally not eat any meat, really, and that, as the world becomes hungrier, beef takes up something like either 83 or 87% of the world's arable land and produces 17% of the calories. Oh, the ducks. So yeah, 83% of the world's arable land for 17% of the calories, and a lot of that food gets wasted because it can't be stored once it's defrosted. So then I think the next one after beef was mutton and lamb, which is more a thing in other parts of the world than it is in the UK, despite the fact that we grow a hell of a lot of mutton and lamb. But yeah, but that's for if you live in a desert country where they don't grow a lot of cows, then your impact is mutton and lamb. But let's just start with beef if we can. We need, and even a third of the people on earth not eating beef would reduce the beef industry and prevent people from expanding it, because if it can't sell, if beef doesn't sell, then people won't grow it. So if you shrink the beef market, we've got other alternatives. So yeah, nobody's really commented on that. I know a few people that are kind of in agreement, and I've met and spoken to people that are vigorously not in agreement, even though it seems pretty simple to me and that we have the proof of scientists. I would like to see because say a group of people like Extinction Rebellion. So Extinction Rebellion have protests, and they're asking for people to do a lot of stuff that is very difficult to cut out. You know, don't drive your cars, don't fly in planes, you know, all that sort of stuff. They made a point of travelling across, you know, Greta Thunberg made a point of dramatically crossing the Atlantic in a solar-powered yacht. You know, wind power and all the electricity on board was provided by solar. So the thing with that is, let's try going back there, is that that's not immediately feasible for a lot of people. I mean, one of the interesting things a couple of towns in France have done is made public transport free. You know, from the outskirts of town to the centre of town. You know, that would be great. You know, if you give people an economic incentive, then you're going to get results. But this requires no government needs to do anything. Ooh, I'm not looking forward to this. Look, this is a bit of a climb. It's like going up 1 metre in 1 step or 2 steps. So, for the people that like to see me fall over, hey, you're going to be disappointed. Teasers. Yeah, so not eating beef is a thing we can do. We can do it. You can choose to do it yourself. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying, you know, of all the things you could do in your life, I mean, I try and recycle. I try not to buy new stuff wherever it's an option. I'd rather buy second-hand. I mean, it started off because second-hand is a lot cheaper, but it also keeps stuff out of landfill, which adds to our carbon footprint and all sorts of bad things like PCBs and heavy metals escaping into the water. So yeah, there are a lot of us on this planet. There are very few ways in which we can contribute to the well-being. And I'm not lecturing, it's just those are my reasons. That's why I think that would be a cool thing to do. So I intend to get in touch with the Climate Rebellion, the Extinction Rebellion people, and say, look, you know, how about you're doing all the hard power stuff, like protesting and turning up to all sorts of things and pretty much sitting down and having conferences with people, and those people are all nodding, but those are also the same people that get huge amounts of lobbyist money for doing stuff, which, you know, a lot of these significant changes are in the hands of politicians who sometimes, if we're going to be brutally honest, are not don't have any incentive to annoy the people that give them lots of money so they can afford to be re-elected. You know, money in politics is a thing we could get rid of, but it's not really in the gift of your average bod on the ground, whereas not eating beef is. I mean, imagine if 80% of the world refuses to eat beef. You know, you've already got around 1 billion people in India of the Hindu faith that don't eat beef anyway because cows are sacred, because they're reincarnated Brahmin, which has got to be awesome for the cows. You know, they'll go to extremes. They'll stone people to death for eating beef, even if they're people that don't follow their religion. It's kind of beyond, you know, their awareness. That's interesting, isn't it? Look down there. That's very close to being stepping stones across this narrowness of the river. This wasn't here a couple of months ago. Nice metaphor for if the planet becomes unsustainable for humanity, it's just going to rock on. You know, the water might not be drinkable, you know, but I'm sure lots of other creatures will find that 7 billion decomposing bodies are a useful feast. Then those creatures that gorged on bodies and reproduced manically will die out. So yeah, The river's even moved this dead shopping trolley because it was over there. So yeah, so I'm going to do that because it makes logical sense to me. And although I'm giving up, you know, I love steak. I really, really love steak. But, you know, I can have steak, but now that I know that, you know, buying that steak actually harms the planet, there's plenty of other things I could be eating. You don't need beef mince to make spaghetti bolognese or lots of the other things I eat, like lasagna. You know, you do need cheese. And maybe once, you know, it's the planet. It's our sustainability on it. We can do this one thing. It isn't a huge sacrifice. But yeah, so I mean, I'd even like to hear from people with opposing viewpoints. So if you're sitting out there going, oh, I'm not going to not eat burgers because everybody else will eat burgers, well, it's a bit like littering. It's a bit like throwing litter on the ground because everybody else does. You know. But I mean, you know, once you stop eating beef, you start looking at the dairy industry, which is pretty horrific. So, I'm on a bit of a quest because I'd like to eventually quit dairy. You know? See, look. I was going to not collect any litter today. You know, because I didn't think to bring a bag with me. So that's something that I'm going to do, not every day, but I think I'll start doing it once a week. So let's go. I've got a bag. There was a load of litter on that little beachy bit. We'll start there. So yeah. I suppose some of this could be washed down the river, but really, I'm not sure that it has. So yes, there's always something you can do. You know, if you want to do something about it, there's usually something you can do. Let's go back here. So, what bothers me about this sort of thing? Let's see. This is a little teeny tiny fromage frais pot, which is the most middle class form of yogurt in existence. So, they come in little teeny tiny pots to appeal to small children, right? You know, no child over the age of about 5 wants to eat fromage frais, because the pot is like literally 2 mouthfuls. It's the most pointless size of yogurt. So they are, you know, and they're covered in cartoon characters. So that leads me to, you know, although making assumptions is never good, I'm going to make an assumption that the person that ate this was a child, and a small child at that. And those, you know, that small child was here with a parent. And from that parent, who left that behind and didn't pick it up, we got another generation of children that are given parental, basically, permission to litter. So you've just taught your child to be an arsehole in one very fundamental way. That's pretty depressing. Okay, so my 2 things. I'm now giving myself another job. Right, so once a week, I can't do it every day, it's too depressing. But once a week I'm going to pick up a 1 carrier bag of litter from these woods, which isn't a lot. But the purpose of one person acting in a way that's contrary to the zeitgeist, because they've got really good reasons not to do it, can start a movement. I mean, Gandhi was on his own when he basically said, you know, India should be free of British rule, and he was on his own, and everybody said, you'll never manage that. There are too many of them, and they have guns, and they're very angry. But, you know, he said, well, you fight anger with peace. Just like you fight fire with ice or water. So, yeah. Maybe we can. And these bloody things. Sanitary wipes. I'm going to have to wash my hands when I get home. Who knows where that's been, which is depressing. Why would you do that? Plastic bags. Like, we can't make it any more, like, visible. Look at this. So this is carp ground bait, right? So this person who's dropped this, there you go. So there's a person out there that goes fishing, right? Which you can only do if you've got a clean river. You can only be here if the river's suitably clean in order for you to, you know, be able to do all this stuff. You only go fishing if other people have not polluted the water that you're taking fish out of. The weird thing is you're also, if you're using carp ground bait, you're fishing for something that you're not going to eat. Probably, anyway. You're probably not going to eat a carp in this country. You can. You know, people do. People did. In the same way as we ate doves, which is why largish houses usually have a dove coop. And that's why they're probably not a thing that you have in America or Australia, but yeah, in the UK, we do dove cooks. Oh, God, this is depressing. Not good for my mental state of mind. You're using the land while not looking after it. Basically saying, I can fish and then screw everybody that comes after me. Pretty amazing. You know, what are people doing? Let's try and burn our rubbish and create even more problems. Right, that's one carrier bag. So yeah, afraid you've got to look at my ugly mug again. Keep on wrapping this one up. So yeah, I don't know, can you call saving the planet altruistic? Knowing that if you do manage to save the planet, then you've got a planet to live on? Or is it enlightened self-interest? I don't know, you be the judge. You know, I'm doing it because it bothers me. I have to do something voluntary where I just wasn't concerned either way for it to be truly altruism. But I think the Greek philosophers probably wrestled with that one and said altruism at the end largely doesn't exist. I remember wrestling with that concept when I was about 6 or 7. Yeah. We can't even teach our children. Can't even create a moral imperative not to throw rubbish on the floor. So yeah. So yes, we can't do anything. As a species, I don't know, what do? Put small children in a knackered planet simulator, jam them all into, jam about 200 kids in the sort of space where only 50 children should be to give them an idea of overcrowding. Make them stay in cubicle hotels for a couple of nights without letting them out. I mean, you can't even just, bring logic to that fight. You can't just say no planet equals bad. People will shy away from it. People will listen to people that they deem are successful. We're programmed to pay attention to people with charisma and confidence, because they sound like they've got stuff sorted. And look at the world leaders. So yeah, I don't mean to bum everybody out, but so all we can do is do what we can do. The two things I can do is carry a bag full of garbage once a week from the woods, even though I know I'm essentially just pissing into the wind, and give up beef and carefully explain to people why I've done it. I mean, the one argument people have come up with outside of I like the taste, which I think they realise doesn't really hold water too well. The one thing that people seem to come up with is, what if you go over to dinner and somebody's serving beef? Then what if you went over to someone's house and they'd offered you dinner and you hadn't bothered to tell them you were a vegetarian? You'd tell someone if you're a vegetarian, wouldn't you? You wouldn't let them cook a meal, although I've seen someone do it, and then announce as you're serving up, and someone's done this to me, let me repeat again, that you're a vegetarian. So that's happened to me, and that's pretty galling. But if that person had told me they're a vegetarian ahead of time, I would have made something like macaroni cheese, which would have answered all the questions. So yeah, and by macaroni cheese I mean from scratch, not American in a box mac and cheese. So yeah, so that's my thinking. You might not be able to change the planet, but you can improve your stay upon it. And it's not altruism if nobody else is going to do it as well. It's just, so you feel better. So, so you don't feel you can assuage some of your basic guilt for being alive and sucking up resources. There are things you do not do. You're patient, and I'm trying to patiently explain to people that's why I don't do it. So yeah, somebody's even argued, what if beef is all you can afford? Well, if it's all you can eat, if it genuinely is the only thing you can eat, then eat it. It's already dead. But if you've got any other option like veg or something like that, eat that. So yeah, so I plan to get in touch with a bunch of people, people that I think could possibly push this idea slightly wider. But I think that once you start saying I'm not going to eat beef because it's bad for the environment, then you'll look at things like other meats and dairy and see what we can do. I mean, if Earth was like 50% vegan, then you can bet your bottom dollar that the vegan food would definitely taste better and be cheaper, because that's where the companies would compete. But because it's a niche market, you have to pay niche prices. Anyway, I'm not going to go on forever. I've got to go home and do other things. Thanks for watching, and do take care.